Alex first in Vegas. This is when you were dating Hannah Einbinder, and this was the night. You were there the night I got together with Joe Coy for the first time. No, we didn't get together. He was there, and that was when I decided, I'm gonna date him.
I remember that. I remember you talking to us about that, being like, I think he's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Joe also used us. I'm not sure if you remember this, but Joe used us all as like proxy gamblers. We all went to like a blackjack table, and I was like, I'm going to stay. And Joe was like, you're going to hit. And I was like, I'm going to hit. And so like Joe was like, and Hannah's like, I'm going to stay. And just like, you're going to stay. And Chelsea, and he was like, throw that. Like, it was actually like kind of amazing. And at the end, he was like, you won $1,100. I'm like, no, Joe, you won $1,100.
The real good luck charm there, just so we're clear, is fucking me. I'm the gambler, and I'm the one who wins, and I'm the one who gives money to everyone so that they win. Okay? So let's not get that fucking twisted. Then I knew Alex, of course, so charming and lovely. And then I kept hearing about his show, which is called Just for Us, which was playing in New York. And all of my friends were talking about it. Everyone was going. So obviously I had to go. I went with some friends, and it blows everyone away. And he recently won a fucking Tony for it. How fucking awesome is that?
It's so crazy. It feels like such a weird, like, Make-A-Wish thing. Everyone's like, good for him, good for this guy. And gosh, buddy, here's a thing to keep going. Like, it really is so nice. But yeah, it's so weird to do the show, and then your comedy heroes and the people that you look up to just start coming. Like, I remember I just saw Chelsea in the audience. I'll never forget it. She was like sitting on the aisle, and I heard the laugh, and I was like, but Chelsea's here tonight. And then like I looked out in the audience, and I see Chelsea, and I was like, I kept having to not look at her because I didn't want to be like, what does Chelsea think of that joke? Is Chelsea enjoying the story? And so like I did the show like this, or like I was looking over.
Well, you had legends every single night coming to your show. You had everybody like Steve Martin and shit, right? Like you had crazy people that you were taking pictures with that I would see you posting every day. So that must have just felt incredible to have so much support from the community that you are in.
It was just nuts. And also I felt like a real imposter syndrome. Although also it's nice to do a thing that people are enjoying. Like I've done a couple of solo shows. Not all of them have resonated like this one. And so, and like you've experienced this, we've talked about, like you are so prolific in terms of like writing new material and doing new tours. And it's so hard to like put away a thing that is really successful because you've worked so hard and so long. And I know you work things out on the road sometimes. So you'll like get to a place where it's like finished and cruising in a way that it wasn't at like the beginning of a tour. And then you're like, time to film it and put it out. Like it's a real like exhausting mindfuck experience.
Because you were working on this show for about 6 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, I worked on it for a year, and then I sort of put it away for like a year to work on a television show. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to recommit myself to my show in this year of 2020. And then like after 2 months of like a 4-month tour, the whole thing shut down and we didn't come back until 2022. But like, I've been working on it and massaging this thing for, like Robert Kraft. I've been massaging this thing for,
And now it's a special on HBO, or on Max, I should say.
Yeah, it's on Max. It aired on HBO. Like it really like, it's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. So
I know. Okay, so tell for our listeners who are not familiar, haven't seen the special yet, let's talk about it. Why don't you tell us about it? It's very fucking funny.
Well, it's a comedy special. It's full of jokes, but there's a story at the center of it. I went to this meeting of white nationalists in Queens, and eventually one of them was like, sorry, but this guy's Jew. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a Jew. And so like, that's what the show is about, is like this meeting. And there are obviously tangents and stuff like that. And there's like a cute one of the white nationalists. And so there's like a little daydream about that. But yeah, it's mostly about this meeting. And there are lots of other stuff.
A lot of the twists and turns, but basically the crux of the evening is you're meeting with a white supremacy group, white nationalist group, and them discovering that you're Jewish, and then your reaction to that, which was what? Fear?
I mean, not really. It was mostly a conversation. It was mostly like, hey, maybe there's stuff we can talk about. And it turned out there wasn't, but like, it's just an argument. Guys, listen, you just come over for Shabbos. We'll figure it all out, but like, but it really, there's actually a critic once pointed out correctly, that not much happens. Is that like I go to this meeting and I eat a muffin and then they find out that I'm Jewish and I leave. But in between, it's a useful like inflection point for like conversations and like some tensions and some characters and stuff like that.
A lot of tension. I was terrified the entire time watching it.
Well, that's why it's so enthralling and why so many people are, so interested in seeing it and talking about it. And you're getting awards for it is because it is touching on a subject matter that people are loath to tackle, and, it makes people nervous. So many people are so conflict avoidant that they don't even want to hear about anything like that. You know what I mean? Luckily, there's a whole other group of people that feel the opposite.
But you've done that a lot. Like, that's one of the reasons that I think your beloved seems too simple. But like you are, because you tackle difficult stuff, and and not only you prolific, you like. I've always preferred comedy that was like a little bit of a high wire act. I've always preferred comedy that took a little bit of. Look, we just have so much comedy, and there's so many funny people, and there are truly many brilliantly funny comedians. But now I think we want a little, like, you want great comedy, but you also want a little bit of like insight, or you want a little bit of daring, or you want like someone to talk face to face with someone about race or about drugs. And you've done this in your specials, in your books, in your series. And so like, I think that's it's like a weird imperative now for comedians who aren't just uploading short clips to Instagram or TikTok, which is like a perfectly acceptable, fine, important way to like build your following. But I've always been team long form. And I think when you're like team long form, you have to give people like little like, Yeah,
well, because you want an arc, right? You want a beginning, a middle, and an end of a story, because that's what you are. You're telling a story. And some comics are just telling jokes, but a lot of comedians are telling stories. That hour is one long story. So tell me about how you're dealing with all of your success and everything, because I run into Alex all the time. We run into each other at social engagements all the time. He's the first person I see every time I go anywhere. I said to him the other day at that Kevin Hart brunch that Kevin showed up 2.5 hours late to. Tell me how you're handling everything, because we've had a couple of conversations and I'm curious. I know that you're special.
I mean, my family always did say that was a concern of theirs, that I was special. But look, in terms of success, first of all, there's a huge amount of imposter syndrome, like I said. And second of all,
are you still feeling that imposter syndrome?
A little bit, and also like a little bit less just because I'm doing new stand-up for the first time. And like I had a show at Netflix as a joke, which was like an hour and a half of material that wasn't just for us. So that was really like comforting to have.
Great. Good for you.
I don't know what that'll be. I don't know if it'll be like another show. I'm pretty tired from doing this one for years and years and years. But yeah, that could be a good thing. And it's amazing to meet like really interesting people. Like I got to be one of the Time 100 this year, and I had like a really fulsome conversation with this guy, Motaz Aziza, who's like a Palestinian photojournalist. And we had like a really visceral, intense, personal conversation about like this thing that obviously he and I have probably very different opinions on. Some things we agree on, some things we don't. And so like, it's really cool to be in new spaces, meeting like new people. And like, it's amazing to be like a Time 100 person, or it's amazing to like get a Tony Award. And so like, yeah, I really enjoy like getting to go to some stuff, but I've also like learned to say no a little bit the last couple months. I used to say yes to everything because there wasn't very much. It's very manageable to say yes to everything. But now sometimes like, it's just not feasible to go. And also, not to be too like granular here, there's something very concerning about your iteration techniques taken away. I used to just like nurture things at like open mics or small work in progress shows. And now, when I try to put work in progress shows on sale, it's nice that they sell in tiny rooms, like very small rooms, but the expectation has changed. And the idea that I'll be able to sort of like labor away at something tricky for a long time until I get it right, that's changed a little bit. So like, that's the element of like success that concerns me. And also sometimes people will feel comfortable saying a lot of stuff to me that I'm like, oh gosh, I would never say that to another person, or I can't believe you're saying that to me. And like
what?
My director passed away right before we started on Broadway, and he was my best friend. We were really close. And, sometimes people come to me in the street and want to talk about him. And I'm like, okay, I want to write something about him at some point, because I think about him every day, and he's still like, a big part of my mental capacity. But someone came up to me after a show and was like, Is it true that your show would have been a little better if your director was still alive? And I was like, my God. It was like funny. I was like, I can't believe you'd say that to me. And he was like,
exactly.
And by the way, yes, it 1,000% would be better if Adam was here, but there's nothing I can do about that. And also, like, yeah, people ask me a lot for my takes on Israel and Palestine. Speaking of Motaz, and like when I had that conversation with Motaz, someone took a picture of it and it wound up in the newspaper, and like, that's fine, but I still need to be able to have those conversations. I still need to be able to talk about tricky things with like an aspect of grace that you would afford a person as opposed to an entity. So like that is really tricky and really scary. And also I'm stretched pretty thin. So it means it's hard for me to like give correctly of myself to like friends and family in a way that I used to be able to. Like now it feels like a lot of times good once in a lifetime stuff is happening. So even though I've learned to say no, I just can't show up for people in the way that I used to. And I think that will affect my friendships and affect my ability to like date and affect my ability to like be like a person who is like regular. Is a constant struggle between these like exciting new things that I get to do and the person that I still like very much want to stay. Sorry if that, I hope that answers like, I'm being extremely transparent about like my biggest insecurity about this, but for the most part, my life is very similar to the way it was before, with the exception of like now I get to go to like the Tonys or like I got to go to the Met Gala. So like that's a very, very salubrious event to get to go to. It's very, but like at the end, I still like page an Uber home and like wait a few minutes for surge pricing to go down until I get the Uber. It's not like I'm rich now or anything like that.
I think what you're saying about your family and your friends and everything, I think that always finds its balance, because you're like at the beginning, not at the very beginning, but you're at the beginning of a long career. And when you are in this phase of excitement and offers and opportunities, it is very hard to say no. And family and friends always understand that, as long as that doesn't become your defining thing. Like that's all you care about. I've had that struggle before too. Like, oh, I've got this opportunity, but I'm supposed to go here with my family. And I always err on the side of family because that really is the most important thing. And I have flown, made plans where I've had to fly around the world in 24 hours to accommodate everybody, but I always do find that it is worth it because your bandwidth is the most important thing. But as long as you are constantly filling your cup up, you are more readily available to give to the people in your life that deserve your attention and your space and your time. You don't ever want to give that away. You know what I mean? Like people are understanding in the beginning, but those are the people that are going to be there for you when times aren't good or when you're struggling with something or something's disappointing. So it is a tricky balance, but it's totally doable.
Yeah, it's just like when when the special came out, there was a really intense like period of like PR. And so it's still like intense and also very nice. You get to like do things like this. You get to talk about your like project. At the same time, like I let a couple like friends down. My friend made a trip from Boston to like see me at this sort of like screening of the special that HBO had. And I couldn't like really spend any time with her because I had just like done the Tonight Show that day, which was amazing. And like I had been on like morning television, and then I got to the thing and I was pulled like hither, tither, and yon. And so like really didn't have a chance to like talk to my friend. And then my friend called me the next day and very like appropriately was like, I felt disrespected. And I was like, I understand. Cause like I think I saw her and I don't know if I even said thank you or like if I was like appropriately like grateful for like this huge amount of effort. And like she came like 4 hours on a train and then stayed in a hotel and went back on the train the next day. Like it's the day of her life. And I don't even know. So like, it's a thing where it just requires a lot more intention than I'm used to like expanding. And so I'm going to have to like be more thoughtful and intentional in a way where I used to just be like, oh yeah, I'll go to that thing because the only thing I'm invited to this week. When you have like a project, every day feels like your birthday a little bit. People are like, oh, look at this thing you made. And you're like, yeah, look at this thing I made. And then, but like after like 2 weeks of that.
Yeah, because you don't want to take yourself that seriously either.
1,000%.
And on that note, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And we're back with Alex Edelman, whose special is on Max called Just For Us. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. It is very eye-opening and hilarious. And you see how talented this person is. Okay, Alex, on this podcast,
I know
you're Jewish, so you've been to a lot of therapy. All Jews have. And we are going to use that therapy and spit it back out.
I'm so excited for this.
And I know kind of your thing is you love to use comedy to sort of tackle tough issues. So we're going to put that a little bit to the test today, starting with our first question. So Courtney says, Dear Chelsea, I'm a big fan of the podcast. I lost my husband 2 years ago to suicide.
Ooh.
I was 29 at the time and he was 33. I found comedy and dark humor to be a very helpful tool, as well as therapy and support groups. I was pregnant with my second baby when he passed away. I now have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old. I've done lots of work on myself and have started a fundraiser in memory of my late husband. I started dating again and feel very out of my depth. I don't want to waste my time and I tend to overshare. I don't want someone who can't handle my situation, but I know I need to balance the information I'm sharing. I also need to have someone who can understand that my late husband will always be a big part of my life. Any tips for dating after trauma? Courtney.
Alex, what do you think off the top of your head on that?
I think that this is like a really tough struggle that comes down to a thing that's actually very universal, which is I am a certain way. I feel certain things at a cellular level. Some of those things may be more socially valid than others, right? Like someone's political opinions might be as, ingrained in them as a trauma, right? Like, and so you make allowances for a trauma where you wouldn't make them for, various political opinions. Do you know what I mean? Like people have a thing about themselves that is who they are. And the big question is, can other people handle those things? And how much of myself do I have to hide? Or how much of myself am I comfortable sublimating in order for someone to see me? How much do I gradually reveal of myself? And I think the answer is it's a personal comfort thing, right? Like if you feel like it's really important for you for someone to be able to understand how you relate to your late husband right off the bat, even if it makes them uncomfortable, you will find that person. That person exists. But also I think this person should be progressing it with the comfort level that they feel, but they should be fully aware that that is a thing that may be difficult for some folks who aren't as secure or evolved or sensitive in the right way to handle.
I agree. I think you have to gauge, all of us individually, when we're dealing with trauma or whatever, have to gauge when we are ready to get back on the scene. And it sounds like you think you are ready to get back on the scene. And a good test of that is this is such an important issue to you that it has to be kind of at the forefront of any dating scenario, it sounds like. It doesn't sound like something you can hold back and tell somebody about 3 months into a relationship, because that's not fair. You really are dealing with trauma. And circling back to what Alex said about trauma is there are more allowances made for people who have been traumatized and have been through something difficult. And this is as difficult as it gets. Your husband committing suicide while you have 2 young children, pregnant with one and have another. It's all crazy. No one is prepared for that. So Mazel Tov, that's Jewish for congratulations on getting this far and for being a parent to those 2 children by yourself, because nobody signed up for that. And I know you didn't, and you're doing it. And I'm sure you're doing a hell of a job. So as far as the dating goes, I would say really it's a great way to weed people out. You know what I mean? Somebody who doesn't get it, get them out of there right away. Yeah.
Yes.
And somebody who does, you keep them around and you grow into a friendship, hopefully a love ship or whatever ship you're looking for. But I would be front loading this information with potential dates, not on the apps or whatever, but once you meet them and get to know them, on the second or third date, explain. If you really think that there's a spark there and there's some chemistry, you'd be surprised by other people's capabilities to deal with situations like this. Just like you're surprised in the disappointing sense, you can also be surprised in the other way. Yeah. People will surprise you with how capable they are at dealing with something like this, or someone else who might have had some sort of similar experience could be out there.
That's a good point.
And that would be amazing for you, or someone, who lost their wife and wanted children. There's just so many different variations of what could possibly be your future. So I would just try to step toward that and really get out there and start dating as your schedule permits. You don't have to go on 5 dates a week, but because it's also good practice for you to understand your comfort level with discussing this issue. And the more you talk about it, the easier it will become, and the farther away the sharpness of the trauma. So
yeah, I agree. My one thought is, and I haven't used the apps, But
Well, you're married. so
yes,
that
I've been
would be-
married for a long time, so I'm not.
Is Ashley Madison still available? Is that still an app, or did they go to jail?
I think there was a big kerfuffle, but I think they still exist.
I interviewed them once for one of my Netflix specials. Yeah, I went up to Toronto where they're based out of, and they're a couple. I was like looking at this woman. I'm like, really, this was your husband's idea? Stupid ass.
She's like, we're monogamous though, and he's like,
I think he got caught a couple weeks later after our interview for having multiple affairs. Anyway.
So we think she should not preempt the conversation on the apps, right? Like, so I'm a widow. I've got 2 kids.
I don't think widow is a good word to be using. That
Okay.
I just don't think
feels old.
No, it does.
I
It's
agree.
like, it's not inviting. Widow is.
not
You can
sexy?
say I'm a single mom with 2 kids, and then when you meet in person, you talk about the real stuff.
You can just say 2 kids. I would even be more concise because they're going to be like, well, that makes it. Unless it's Ashley Madison that you're on, people are going to assume that you means you have 2 kids. But yeah, the word widow, through no fault of widows themselves, has become uninviting based on its association with various unbeloved superhero movies and the most poisonous spider known to man.
Yeah, or single mother of 2 looking to get after it. That
There
sounds
you go.
upbeat.
I love
That's
that.
fun. But Chelsea's right. Like, congrats to you for like getting back out there after a thing. It requires so much like unseen courage to actually like being the parent of 2 small children. That alone is enough, and to be a widow, that alone is enough to be a widow in that fashion, having to deal with so much. That is truly a feat. So, Mazal Tov indeed.
I have a question for you. Do people ever compare you to Woody Allen?
Yeah, but only for
artistic aspect.
Yeah, but only no, I was kidding. Well, only because I love the clarinet so much, and I was kidding. Yes, I get compared sometimes artistically to.
Let's hope it ends there. Let's keep it that way.
But yeah, no, I do. I love some of his movies and also the anecdote, and I also love your anecdote. Well, you can cut it out if you don't want, but it's my favorite thing. Which is Chelsea meeting. You've done it. You've said this.
No, I've mentioned it. People will have heard it.
I love it so much. But yeah.
Thanks. I'm going to throw that into my next special. Okay, what's next, Catherine? What do we got?
All right, we have a caller. Things get lighter from here.
Hi, caller.
He can be heavy. He can be heavy or light.
You're doing great.
I'm happy with it. Nothing phases.
He's very bright.
Yeah.
And emotionally adept.
That's very clear. Well, let's see. Let's talk to Jessica next. Jessica is calling in from Mexico City.
Oh.
She says, I'm a 42-year-old woman who's lived outside of the United States for 6 years. I've been single for 7 years after a bad breakup and have been chronically dating men under 30 for far too long. Each year, I make a resolution to not date anyone younger than 35, but here are the problems. 1, I'm young at heart, and older guys, my own age, seem like they want to be my dad. Yes, possibly abandonment and daddy issues there. I still go to music festivals, concerts, and, quote, younger crowd places. And I want someone who can keep up. 2, guys my age who are single are either absolute trash, not actually single, or want kids. I'd rather collect passport stamps and burn through my disposable income. So I end up going out a few times with these young guys, and of course they are always too immature in one way or another, except the bedroom, and that's where they excel, and it ends. I really want to get married eventually, but I'm stuck in this vicious cycle and I can't seem to get out. My questions are, should I give up the Gen Z dating life even though I'm very popular for those more aligned to my maturity? Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, guys.
This is Alex Edelman, our special guest today. We need a male's perspective. How old are you again?
How old do I look? I'm 42.
42. And you like guys that are under 35. Is that the right bracket or under 30?
I'm 35, but over 30. But right now it's like late 20s, early 30s. But my goal is 35 and over, but it hasn't happened that frequently. But
I'm curious what you say that you're looking for. You're looking for marriage, but you're not looking for children.
Yeah.
So you're looking for your person. And you also like guys who know who like Dua Lipa is.
listen, like I travel a lot and I go to music festivals and shows all the time, like I said. And so when, I try to go to like maybe restaurant bars that have older people in it. and they're either married or I don't know. It feels like there's no one left my age anyways. Like I've been trying to wait for these divorces.
That's not true. I'm so sick of people saying there are no men around. There are men everywhere.
They're falling out of trees, Jessica.
They are. You have to change your number on your app. What apps
Yes,
are
you
you
do.
on?
You're right. My friends made me do this last year, 2 years ago. So my dating range is 35 to 45 on my dating apps. But the ones that I meet out, which end up being more successful for me, just happen to be younger. And some of the younger guys are like, they kind of are nicer. And I like how, there's more consent talk. There's more like talking about your feelings. Like there's more respect in some ways. Whereas like men who are older, like think that they know more than me. And it's not true.
Okay, but you're generalizing everybody. You realize you're generalizing younger guys, that they're the only ones that are good in bed and that are communicative and emotionally sound or have an emotional IQ. And then you're saying that all guys older than you are idiots or chauvinistic or whatever. Neither of those things are true.
You're right.
You don't want children, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no rush for anything right now. You should be having a good time any way that suits you. You don't have to like find your partner at 42 years old. I'm 49 years old and I still haven't found my partner and I'm not fucking stressed about it. I've got lots of options. I'm just trying to figure out if one is worth my time. You know what I mean? You don't have to look at everything like there's a time frame because that's not being present at all. And present is where all the joyfulness comes from. Being absolutely present-minded, enjoying the sex with these younger guys. Let's try not to go below 30. I mean, that's just not necessary.
It's true.
We can't get mad at men for behaving that way when we're all also going to behave that way. Or the opposite argument is it's our turn. But I think just for what you're looking for, you do want a companion more, like you are looking for a steady guy. I think just keep going, doing what you're doing. Like, you don't have to judge yourself, but just like, set it up so that you're going to have success. Between the ages of, 35 and 45 is what you decided. I think that's perfect. Alex?
I mean, look, I've dated older people. I was in a relationship with someone who was 7 years older than me. And then I was in a relationship with someone who was 6 years younger than me. And like the people I've dated since then have been pretty much 2 or 3 years older than me. So like everything... So like I understand in terms of like maturity, and also if you're going to generalize, I have found that maturity can be like tied to different things, especially in like urban environments, right? You meet people who are in an urban environment, they have like a preternatural hardness to them. Like every Los Angeles person feels like 25 years older because they're all like smoking cigarettes and like jaded with the business already. So like, but at the same time, like maturity is so multivariate. Someone can be mature in an economic way, but not mature in an emotional way, or mature in an emotional way, but not mature in a communication way. And like, or mature in a communication way and not mature sexually. And so like, you have to figure out which maturities are like most important to you, because if you're not stressed about children, then what is the stress about dating someone who is, 33 instead of 35? Is this like an imposed thing? Or are you looking for someone to keep pace with you?
Yeah, it's two things. I've been single for 7 years. So like not any dating for more than like 3 months for 7 years. So like no I love yous, no like cuddles at home. I travel all the time, but I want to be with that person. And absolutely, I work really hard on being in the present and I have a lot of fun for sure. And it is something that's always in the back of my head that I know I have to stop worrying about it. I've been telling myself that for years. My therapist tells me that too. But at 7 years, especially after seeing all of your friends partner up, and I'm like, I was the 17th wheel to my own birthday, and you're just like, all right, I'm freaking tired of this. My thing is like, yes, I am looking for someone to share my life with. But I'm in this like hamster wheel of like meeting a young guy and they don't want the same thing as me. And then, yes, they are out there, but I haven't met the older guy that wants the same thing as me either. Like they're either fucking off from like their divorce or nobody wanted them in the first place. That's just been my opinion. And I haven't lived in the States for like 6 years. And so dating is even a little bit more complicated when there's language barriers and cultural differences. And I'm really tall.
Where are you living?
I live in Mexico City now, and I lived in Indonesia before this.
That's fun.
I mean, it sounds to me, Jessica, like you have a pretty peripatetic lifestyle, right? Like you travel a lot, and it's like you're on the go in a macro sense and a micro one, right? Like I assume your days are full of fun and activity and stuff like that.
They sure are.
And you're not like tethered, but also what you're looking for is an anchor. And so I have this exact same problem because I'm a touring comedian. And so if you're looking for someone to be an anchor, you might also have to like anchor yourself a little bit. You might have to like spend time in a way in an environment that's like a little more interior focused. You might have to like not be going to a bazillion events constantly because it feels like you have two desires and they may be like slightly competing. And that's my 2 cents.
Very sagacious advice and a great vocabulary. I love all of the things you're saying, Alex. Do you hear what he's saying, Jessica? I totally agree with that. It seems like what your desires and your actions are in conflict.
Yeah. I mean, I've lived in the same apartment for 3 years. So when I say I travel, it's like weekends or like for the summer, I'm going to Europe tomorrow for like the summer.
But that's a big thing. That's Jessica. That's like a big, that's like, you're like, I live in the same apartment, but I am going to leave to go to halfway across the world.
I know, but I'm very popular in Europe, you guys, and they're so much taller. I'm looking for a husband over there.
There's a lot of sex to be had in Europe. So definitely have a great time over there. I feel the same way about Europe.
But what are you going to do? You're going to meet a guy in like France or Albania or Croatia or something? And then like at the end of the year.
I'm going to Croatia tomorrow, Alex. That is
okay.
the plan.
I understand, but then you're going to like meet a guy.
After that is the plan. And then I can move there because I'm remote.
So I'm like, I'm not trying to like read you to filth here, Jessica, but I'm just saying like, out of the many countries in Europe, I picked the 2 that I thought were the most sort of like far-flung and impractical. I thought like, I'll say Estonia, that'd be too much, but like
Montenegro.
But so you're going to meet these guys, but presumably you go and meet someone and you're only there for the summer. And then like, what, you take them back to Mexico City, you move to Croatia. Like these are not like, it is hard to, and by the way, which isn't to say you shouldn't do it. Like you're living your life. It seems like you really enjoy your life. And this is like not a front burner of your brain problem all the way through, but like it does make it difficult. And I'm only saying this because of way too much experience. It does really make it difficult to like maintain a relationship when like there is a deadline and where you're leaving. And so like if you go for the summer, let's say you're going for like 3 months or 3.5 months and you meet a guy like 2 weeks in, that's still like a lot of pressure to put on a 3-month relationship. Be like, hey, do you want to move to Mexico City with me, Mr. Croatia? Like, and you're not even staying in Croatia, you're going to Albania. So like that's 2 countries.
Well, this is an anomaly.
It's an anomaly. I somehow doubt that, if I'm being honest with you.
Summers are only the 2 months of the year. Like I'm in Mexico City the rest of the year. It's only 2 months of the year.
Okay, listen, I'm going to reroute you. Just lean into your lifestyle.
Yes.
Until you're home and grounded in a place for a long period of time. I mean, you can do a lot of inner work and you can meditate and you could write down what you're looking for. And I find all of that manifestation stuff is impactful. As long as you believe in it, it works. You know what I mean? That's all we all need to do is believe what we're doing. It sounds to me, a couple of the things that you've said is that you're comparing yourself to all of these other people around you instead of leaning in and enjoying your life.
Yes.
Your life is your own life. You're on a different path. None of your friends are going from Mexico City to Croatia, Albania, Montenegro, Estonia, for the summer, right?
Well, besides the ones going with me, but yeah.
I mean...
All right. I think you should just stop putting pressure on yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, stop that. Stop looking outside of your own life. That's what social media is for, and that's why it is so damaging, because people look and see, oh, I want to do that. I should be doing that. And that's what you're doing in your real life, it sounds like. And just because someone else has had a partner and you haven't had one for 7 years, you're on a different path. That's okay.
Do you know the IRA? The Irish Republican Army. They were like Irish terrorists and all that stuff.
Kind of.
Someone asked the head of the IRA.
During the Troubles in the 80s?
Yeah. They were trying to kill Margaret Thatcher. And a reporter asked someone this goes somewhere, I promise. And a reporter asked the head of the IRA how they felt. And they went, pretty good, actually, about our chances. And they said, why? And they said, well, she needs to be perfect every time. We only need to be perfect once. And so I think this about like dating in high stress environments, in the sense that like you are looking for a specific type of person and you only need to be right once. And so like I think that takes a little bit of pressure off. You're the Irish Republican Army. Like you don't, and the world and the dating pool is Margaret Thatcher, right? Like you need to just find your one target.
A parallel.
Yeah. You need to find your one target. And that one target is a person who also is mature in the ways that you value, and kinetic and fun and young at heart and cool with going to Albania for the summer. You'll figure it out. You'll find that person. And in the meantime, you'll have like a good amount of time. So I totally agree with Chelsea in that like should like not pathologize here. Like,
yeah. And it's not even 100% the comparison. Sometimes it's just like, it's just it is what I want inside, but the incongruency is exactly the thing, because what I'm entertaining isn't exactly going to serve me in the long term, but also maybe it's not as front burner as I thought it was, because fun is like my number one value, and like freedom is my number one value, and all this, so
maybe you're going to meet a 30-year-old who's an old soul. I think what Chelsea said about
I thought
30
we're
and up
on
is like
35 to 45. When did we go back to 30? I gave you 30. Okay, forget it. I take it back. I was wrong. I wasn't even paying attention to what I was saying. No, I think that's right. Also, there's a lot of self-love that needs to go into having a fun life. Like I take fun very seriously.
I know you do. I look up to you.
And that's the right attitude, but there's also a lot of self-respect and self-love that you have to instill in yourself to not feel the pressure of these outside sources, because you're just looking around feeling pressure. I understand you're saying that you feel it within yourself, but like when you love yourself enough and you have all of that going on, that is like, oh, that would be a great addition, but it's not necessary.
Right. And that is what I hope I come across as. I don't want to just date anyone. Otherwise, I would have by now, right? Like he has to be additive to my life, because my life is full and complete, and I have a bunch of girlfriends, and I have all the fun in the world.
Listen, you're going to be fine. Go have fun in Albania. Go fuck your brains out, or have fun with your friends. Whatever you want is fine, but just be in a place of acceptance instead of craving. You know what I mean? Yeah. Accept your life. You've said it like 5 times in this short time how much fun you have. Mm-hmm. Focus on that.
Yeah.
You're right.
And consider that you've waited this long because you're waiting for the right one.
Right.
As they would say in Espanol, divertirte. Thank you so much for calling in. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Adios. Okay, that was all over the shop. That
was great, actually. I loved that.
I know, it was funny. Yeah, I like it when it's light. You know what I mean? Sometimes things get very serious and then I have to go home and smoke a big fatty.
Yes.
Great. We'll take a break and we'll be right back with Alex Edelman. And we're back with Alex Edelman for our last caller.
We are back. So Amy says, Dear Chelsea, I have a bit of a situation at home. My roommate and I have lived together for 2.5 years, and I absolutely love our living situation. We get along great, and we haven't had any issues aside from her being late on rent a few times. Unfortunately, the past couple of weeks, she has been bringing this guy she's dating home every single night. A year ago, when they first tried dating, she'd come home constantly in tears about him. He'd start arguments in public, the works. Now, out of nowhere, she is back with him, and she's taking a break from drinking. I didn't think much about it. A break is always good, but now I know why. He's in her life, and if they're going to date, they cannot drink around each other per his terms. She's gone out with him and partied with other friends, something she very much enjoys, being social and hanging out with groups of friends and going to shows. Now she can't do that as much as she'd like because every single night around 10 or 11, she sneaks him into our home and he stays the night. I should note she goes for the bad guys and not the nice ones, so to me, this isn't worth her time. He's a scrub. Women's intuition is screaming inside me that he has to control her. I can't even acknowledge his presence when he's here. He says hi, and I can't even look at him, let alone say hi back. It's extremely uncomfortable for me, and I don't trust him in my home. I've lived here for 5 years, and it's my safety net where I can relax, chill out, and feel comfortable. But now, because I'm getting so angry every night he walks in with her, it has ruined my nights for the past couple weeks.
Oh, that's a bummer. Hi, Amy. This is Alex, our special guest today, Alex Edelman.
Hey, Amy.
So it sounds like you're going to have to just tell your roommate you don't feel comfortable with him in the house. And if she wants to continue dating him, then she's going to have to get a new place.
Okay.
or find a new place to live. I mean, you should never feel unsafe in your own house. That's just
Thank you.
never,
That's-
ever, ever,
yeah.
ever.
That's like the one place that like I've made it for her and myself, like
Yes.
safe zone, safety net. And I've just been like, how do I handle this? I don't want to be polite because in a way I'm like, this is like, I need to be strict about this.
What are your conversations been like?
Super agreeable. Like, I love living here. I don't want it to be uncomfortable for anybody. Let's make this a safety place. And then
she's sneaking him in, right?
yeah, like 4 times in the past, like 6 days.
Does she think you don't know that he's being snuck in?
I'm right there.
Oh, because you're saying hi. Well, he's saying hi to you and you're not responding. Right. Okay. Well, it's very reasonable for you to want to feel safe. Well, the conversation will go probably something like this. You'll say this, and then she'll say, how could you feel unsafe around him? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It doesn't matter why you feel unsafe. It matters that you do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it matters that she respects that, because that's what a friendship is.
Okay. See, and I didn't want to be like pushy, be like, I know this is your place too, blah, blah, blah. I want to be able to come home and walk around in my underwear and
Comfort.
t-shirt
Yes.
and not have to worry about whatever.
And are you prepared to have someone else come and, like, do you know, I know this is new, but
Yeah.
are you prepared to have somebody else if she does choose to move out?
I'm like financially stable enough to like wait, like
Great.
that distance between transitioning.
And also, can't she go to his house? Isn't that an option?
She's not allowed to. She's not allowed. His roommates are like, no.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
So they're just fully toxic.
Amy, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you conflict avoidant?
No.
All right. Well, then how hard would it be
Can
for you
you
to
wait?
be like,
Wait, can you move in with his roommates, and she and him just move into your place?
oh my
It's
God,
just
that's
smart.
amazing.
Seems like the obvious solution. No.
That's so funny.
I mean, if I knew them, it might be work, but I'm also like not in my
No,
20s.
you seem together and mature. Alex, Go ahead. I interrupted you this time. What were you going to say?
We've had 2 bits of advice so far that were like long, difficult, drawn out things. And like, not that this isn't difficult, but like, this is fairly simple. You don't feel safe in your own home. Your roommate's not respecting your wishes. By the way, if it hasn't been made clear to your roommate that these are your wishes, then it's incumbent on you to do that. But if you have made this clear, then you guys have to stop living together. It's like not a compatible situation. And like, roommates is actually like
it's an intimate thing.
it's a very intimate, it's this very serious relationship. You are living together. You are huge parts of each other's life. And there is a huge incongruity here. This situation is like completely untenable. And like, you need to be like, hey, can you leave? Or be like, hey, this is how I feel. It's not okay with
This
me.
is it.
I'm really
I
sorry.
like Chelsea's idea of just being like, look, this is how it's got to be. Otherwise, we're going to have to just go our separate ways.
I think it's very simple. I should have just said, Chelsea's right. That's literally
That's how this podcast is. It's always like, I agree with Chelsea.
super cut and dry here.
I believe in you, Amy. I know you're going to
Thank
handle
you.
this, and you're strong, and that you have nothing to worry about. So go have the conversation, and it'll take her a minute to digest it, I'm sure, but that's not your problem. It's not your problem.
Not my monkey.
You're your
It's not
problem.
my circus.
Exactly.
So.
Okay. Well, have a great day, and thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much for having
Okay.
me.
Amy.
Take care.
That was easy.
Yeah, that was nice. That was a nice way to end our day together, our afternoon together, our morning. Alex, I loved your advice. You're so bright. You're so smart. I mean, I already knew that, but it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear it within the podcast and giving advice to people in a very fruitful way.
I love it. And by the way, it's so funny. In each of these bits of advice, I see like little problems that I've dealt with, or little situations where I've been like deficient, or little situations where I like should have been clearer or spoken up for myself. Or in the case of the peripatetic person, I was like, lady, I totally hear you. And also feel that maybe you either need to make a lifestyle change or just be comfortable with the life that you're living. And so like, it's amazing how many people who ask tough questions, you're like, oh, I've had a little bit of that somewhere. So I don't know. It's good.
Yeah. And also, it's always nice to know, like, it's always nice to get an outside opinion of a situation where people who don't know anything about you are telling you objectively what the situation looks like.
Mhm.
Like, that's what a counselor is, Okay, so Alex, we're going to bid you adieu. Congrats on your special. Which
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Truly. It's so
anytime,
wonderful.
honey. Anytime. I love you. And the special is called Just For Us, and it's streaming on Max.
Yes. And please watch it. If you're listening, please do watch.
Yeah, watch
So.
it. It's worth it. Okay.
Okay.
Take
Thanks,
care.
guys.